Agenda item 8, Leader's Report. I call upon the Leader.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I've circulated this report already, but I will read it out again. Thank you. I would like to pay tribute to the vast majority of councillors and staff at TDC who, for over the 20 years I've been a councillor, never let Thanet down and work extremely hard to serve our community. Prior to my election in 1995, I ran a voluntary helpline for the Labour Party at my home. And the calls ranged from people in despair over lost jobs and home repossessions to serious health concerns and delays in getting operations. Standing for election and eventually winning was the only way to really bring about change. And it's good to see so many new people on all sides, willing to stand this year, who hopefully want to genuinely work for the greater good. The biggest issues for me in Thanet are the same as they always were: a respected council, decent homes, well-paid jobs, an opportunity for a good education and a clean, healthy and safe environment. Right across the council I see dedicated staff day by day just getting on with the job of realising our corporate plan and meeting some very demanding commitments. The heavier regeneration projects on business parks and the stopping of leakage to Lakeside, Bluewater and Canterbury by building Westwood Cross needed all of us to work together, and this must continue. The exciting plans for the ice rink at Westwood and the Sea Life Centre at the Lido, along with beach clubs, need steady steering to completion. Projects for EKO are progressing, and again we must ensure those interested get all our help in delivering. We know we can do it. The Innovation Centre and Christchurch campus and Turner Contemporary happened through our work here, and I was privileged to be invited to open the East Kent College Nursery and continue our strong ties with them. The long-awaited signing of the Pleasurama papers, the progression on Dreamland and the Victoria Pavilion, Sure Start, Blue Flag, CCTV, pensioners' bus passes, all happened because of our work here. Through the then Labour government's Total Place initiative, we set up the Margate Task Force and progressed selective licensing, which has led to other councils asking for our templates. Our excellent community safety partnerships and neighbourhood engagement meetings, our new play areas and skate parks, combined with work in our schools and town teams, would never have happened without strong community involvement, and considerable thanks must go to those who have worked with us. Manston. The efforts by TDC to keep Manston open as an airport over many years must never be forgotten. If the PricewaterhouseCoopers report sees a way by the end of May to recommend River Oak as a back-to-back investor for a CPO, I would ask all who are returned as councillors to thoroughly review our present situation and continue to work with the owners. False promises for electoral advantage fools nobody, and I will not do it. Networking. The extremely close working relationships we've built up at TDC with all outside agencies must continue. I've seen at first hand the work of the 14 agencies involved in the task force and with our local health providers through the Health and Wellbeing Board. I have visited schools and many homes for the elderly, and I'm privileged to serve in many outside bodies. This networking and mutual support, often by volunteers in our community, is exceptional, and we owe a huge thank you to all our residents who give their time to make Thanet a better place to live. I have attended thousands of meetings and events over the 20 years, and many of the same unsung heroes are still giving their time and good humour day in, day out. After all my years, I have a fair idea of what works for Thanet District Council. It is to be united in the one cause, to serve the people who elected us, and also to look for common ground. I would like to thank all of you from all sides of the chamber and our excellent staff for helping me to do my best. Thank you.
Good enough.
Thank you. I call upon Councillor Bayford.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It's always nice when Iris goes down memory lane because I can go back 4 years further. I just have to point that out. I think that Councillor Johnson kind of skirted a bit with the PERDA rules there. I mean, I think there were some mentions of things that are a little bit political, and I'm not going to make a big thing about it, but I would note, as I've noted before, that I think the agenda items suggest that what your report should be is a report of what has happened since the last council meeting, and there wasn't much of that in there. And to me, I'm afraid that the most significant thing that's happened since the last council meeting is that we still haven't gone for a CPO for Manston Airport. I'm very disappointed in that. We've made it clear to you that we would have wholeheartedly supported the move if you'd made it, and I'm seriously disappointed that we're not in that position. We would have done it even though it would have been electorally very disadvantaged to us if you'd done that. I've also got to say that I normally find this last council of a session quite a jolly occasion. You know, you can look back and have a bit of a laugh about what's gone on, but sadly, I don't think it has been. I think, seriously, this has been one of the worst council 4 years that I've ever been through, and I've been through 24 of them. Quite honestly, I think a combination of a hung council, and I'm sorry, but at times very weak leadership, has been disastrous for this council. We've spent our time, at times I said, Iris, you know, if you want to think the cap fits, then it's up to you to wear it, but you might be going down the wrong road. We've spent a lot of our time firefighting issues rather than getting on with the job. And seriously, I think when you look back over the last 4 years, you don't see very much has happened, and I do think that's a shame. I will endorse your praise for the staff, particularly over this last 4 years. It's been a very, very difficult time for them, and they've done a sterling job, and long may that go on. And also agree with you that it is good to see that despite what's happened in the last 4 years, there's a whole phalanx of people out there daft enough to want to stand again. I just hope that whoever's back here on May the 8th, that it is significantly better than the last 4 years, whoever it is, because it hasn't been good, and you can paint it how you like, but if you try and make it out to be good, I think you're seriously wrong. Sorry.
Leaders to respond, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bayford. I think it's fair to say that you and I, behind the scenes, have had a good working relationship. I introduced monthly meetings between all the leaders with myself, and obviously always available. So on the last Friday of the month, we met at 11:30 in the leader's office, and any concerns that any elected member had was an opportunity for you to bring them to me, as did other councillors from the other political parties. We have worked together on the peer review. Our council instigated a peer review. It was particularly Councillor Michelle Fenner who wanted this to happen. We have had meetings throughout the year with the Improvement Board, and we have had a positive response in a letter to say the difference. And the difference very often in this council is about the personalities who are in the room on a particular occasion, and when we focus our minds on why we're really here. And it's been quite noticeable, I think, to people on the Standards Committee and others, that when we work together, we do achieve. I'm Vice Chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, and I can absolutely promise you good work is happening. I was able to instigate an investigation into the maternity services at the hospital in case we had any worries. By talking with outside bodies, as I said in my own speech, we do work together. We, many members cross-party, are governors at schools. We do our day jobs outside of here, where we obviously support our community. To say that it was difficult for the last 4 years is, of course, true. It always is difficult when you've got a hung council. But we had to have some strong leadership on the night of December, whatever date it was, in 2011. Because we weren't having that. And Bob, much as I have an affection for you, anyone who wants to be the leader of this council needs to be in here every day, needs to work with the chief executive, needs to keep their eye on the ball, doesn't sign up to anything that's going to cause us embarrassment. We've had to deal with Trans-Europa and many issues since I became the leader that have been a problem for this council. But I believe we're handing a respected council on to whoever wins on May the 7th. Thank you.
Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I'd first like to echo the words of both Councillor Johnson and Councillor Bayford in offering my thanks to the officers and the support that they've given over the years, and particularly hard years. The Hung Council obviously made this very difficult, and in the 8 years that I've been here, compared to the first 4 years, the last 4 years were totally different. It was a totally different ballpark. I've never shied away from saying my opinion about our Thanet Improvement Board. I don't believe that this council, despite what some people would like to think and what the popular press get hold of, I don't think this council's anything like as bad as it's painted. I think there's a lot of good work that goes on here, and I think if you look at one example of housing intervention and other stuff that has been taken on by other councils, that's something that should be celebrated, but it's something that is very, very rarely ever mentioned in any of the press. It's always negative stuff and never any of the good side that the council does. I'm glad Councillor Mrs Johnson remarked to Trans Europa. I think that is one of the worst failings of the council's last 4 years, only for the fact that to this day nobody has ever got up and taken responsibility for the £3.4 million of taxpayers' money that was wasted. Further to that, Madam Chairman, I'd like to further say that the no overall control sometimes brings out the worst in people, but by and large, I would like to say to everyone here, whether we're coming back or not, that I do wish you all the best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. The leader to respond.
Thank you very much, Councillor King, and thank you for the work that you do, because you chair a residents group in Westgate and you work extremely hard for the people there, and you are very highly respected. And there may be days when I don't achieve everything you would like me to achieve as a leader of this council, but I certainly know how hard you work, and you always contact us when you have problems in your ward. It isn't mentioned often, but the working parties behind the scenes are cross-party, and I'm very grateful to those of you who I chair the working party for the events funding, for example, and we have Councillor Bruce, Councillor Maeve Saunders, Councillor Campbell, where are you? But we work together and we do the best for the people in our community through that little party, and it's actually a really cheerful group that gets together. I see it right across the board in here, and people need to know that. I don't think there's very much more I can say. Trans Europa was signed and agreed to try and save any kind of facility down there and any kind of boat coming in and out in April 2010 by the then Conservative administration, and I think no one would have done any different, because after 15 years we needed to keep the port open, we needed to keep it active, and if in fact some money had to be that wasn't lost because it actually was never spent, but it was money not earned, they didn't pay us. But I think even if we had been in control in April 2010, it would have been a difficult decision, but I think we would have probably had to say the same. I have said that publicly before. There has been comment about this council being corrupt. I find that disgraceful cross-party, where there's anyone who ever does anything wrong in this council from any party, and any of us, I believe, in this room now, and we know about it, we will report it. And I did in my time when it was one of mine and when it was one of yours. And I would do it again if it was one of ours. So I don't believe people are corrupt. Many of us work a 12-hour day in support of our people.
Being one of our most active, honest, caring and considerate leaders. I've seen a few, and I must admit, she's a great asset to our community. Now, there's one thing I always concerns me, and that is hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is the enemy of democracy. You're always very smart, Councillor Bayford. You really do get on my nerves at times. Well, and I'm talking, Councillor Bayford. I didn't interrupt you when I thought you were saying most dreadful things. Let me say my dreadful things against you now, or whatever it is. Right, thank you, Madam Chairman. I may continue. Hypocrisy is the enemy of democracy. Well, Councillor Johnson has always honestly practiced what she preached. No hypocrisy from you, Councillor Johnson. And thank you for your honest, hard-working term of office as our leader. Councillor Johnson, you have been the champion of the community. My congratulations and thanks.
Thank you. Leader?
I would like to say thank you. I'm sorry, but I would like to thank Councillor Cohen, not only for his kind words, but for the work that he does as Chair of Planning. I have never been on planning. I have never any ambition to be on planning because it is the trickiest thing to be involved in, and you can never please all of the people all of the time. But I would like to thank you for your support during my time, your wise counsel, and very often the much needed lift home at the end of the day. Thank you.
Councillor Wiltshire?
Thank you, Chairman. I too would like to give thanks to the officers of this council who have been helpful and supportive during my 4 years in office here. In response to the Leaders' Report, thank you for the opportunity to respond to your unusual Leaders' Report. It could be a mirror which highlights achievements in my 16 years as a councillor. Not for protocols of self-praise, but simply then as now to serve the people who elected me. I too held the Cabinet post for Housing and Community Services. You were the shadow Cabinet member opposing many of the things you claim as your own work today. Within my portfolio, with the excellent officer Mike Thompson, we brought back into use 390 empty properties, with 5 million funding from Kent County Council. Between 2006 and 2010, the 4 million funding from the Safest Strongest Communities Fund delivered 107 projects, solely for Cliftonville West and Margate Central. Chris Wells was a board member throughout and later finished what I had started when he became the Cabinet member. The success of the Turner Contemporary, the regeneration of the old town of Margate, the introduction of shared service agreements, reducing back office costs, proposing and winning the selective licensing schemes, these were acts of vision and transformation. Yes, I was a Conservative then too. You have said many times in this chamber how difficult the legacy issues from previous administrations have been. You have never thanked or congratulated those who left you these excellent projects. In contrast, you have led a council without vision, with no instinct for the longer term. That is why you have so abundantly failed to understand either the long-term potential of Manston Airport, nor the passion of those who do appreciate its iconic status. Similarly, failed to understand the iconic nature of buildings such as the Fort Road Hotel, wanting social housing, not an internationally renowned toy museum, or Piermont Hall, which you would rather sell than repair. The legacy you have left of secrecy, of opaque decision-making, of steadfast refusal to listen to residents' views has done more damage to this council than many previous leaders whom you constantly seek to blame. I have called many times over Manston for you to stand aside and let those of us with courage and vision get the job done.
Councillor Wiltshire, may I please remind you that we are in a purdah period.
Thank you, I have just finished. From the tone of your Leaders' Report tonight, I can only assume that it is what you are expecting to happen in 2 weeks' time. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Leader?
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Wiltshire. Obviously you didn't write that because you and I know each other a lot better. Okay, now I shall move on. This is a nice little document. This is a nice little document from 1998. It was I'm sorry about the history, but 1998, Sam Thomas, our officer, produced a report for Margate Central Ward, and it was the empty properties in the old town. It includes 12B King Street that the former leader of this council eventually bought, if you remember that one. However, I have the paperwork here. That was a Labour administration That was the Labour administration.
Leader, I'm afraid I've got to say the same thing to you. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm very sorry, but you know when something is named...
We're so close to this election, we have
Okay,
got
well,
to be
as
careful.
I'm so close to this election and I have every intention of trying to win my seat again after the 20 years of dedication, may I add that, first of all, the very good things you've described, as I said in my earlier comments, came from Total Place. The Stronger, Safer Community funding came from the government of the day, whom I will not mention, but Mr. Blair did have my thanks. However, Manston and the psychological damage and the psychological upset of the closure of Manston is felt by everyone in this room. And I have to say to you that I don't know anybody who contacted the original owners in Ireland, the Mount Charles family, who contacted the Philpotts, who contacted the Steed family, who was out on site at that airport morning, noon and night to see what was happening. Nobody has given the time to it that I have done. There were phone calls at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was told there was activity on site, and I immediately rang the police. Every councillor in this room, if they had given that time and energy to this, if Sir Roger had kept his task force going, we would not be talking about...
Leader, it's getting a bit electioneering, I'm afraid.
Well, I'm sorry, but truth must out, Chairman. Piermont Hall has not been on a disposal list. No.
Iris, I'm afraid we have to ask you to sit now.
Well, I'll put it in writing to Mrs. Wiltshire as soon as possible.
And sit down,
pass it on to whoever wrote her speech. Thank you.
Thank you.
I find your comments quite appalling.
No,
And you're
Councillor
underestimating...
This is not the time, I'm afraid. Right, we're going straight on to agenda item... Right, we now go on to agenda item 9, the appointment of the Chief Executive. I move that Council approves the appointment of Madeleine Homer as Chief Executive and Head of Paid Service. Would the Vice Chairman please second? Do you wish to debate? No? Do members agree? Thank you.
That should be done after you, and they say it's got to that. Because you've all got number 20, because they talked about last year, allegedly left officials ill on different cases, I'm being cleared as
We're just waiting for a moment to allow Madeleine to come back into the room. Sorry, the new Chief Executive to come back into the room.
disgrace.
No, I think so. I saw it go out. Of course, there's a part of death behind there, isn't there? She went out because she had to. She probably got downstairs, didn't she? She went out a bit quickly.
Maggie's going to give her a job. That's what we're thinking. Yeah, that she's saying, no, I can't do it.
Can I give you guys
I
some
thought to
advice?
enjoy it. The demo does.
The first thing you learn as a counsellor, not
She might decline. She's got a heart.
you find that the government have got rules, you can't do what you want.
Right, we're going to go on to agenda item 19, the exclusion of public and press. I move that the recommendation as set out at paragraph 7.1 of the report be adopted. Would the Vice Chairman please second?
Seconded.
Do members agree?
Come on,
Thank you.
that's it. Good night. Come on guys, we've got to go.
Please can the public and press leave the meeting?